Labour-run Birmingham City Council is currently voting on an almighty tax hike for residents as it battles bankruptcy. If passed, the residents of Brum could be hit with a potential £340 rise, along with cuts to public services as the cash-strapped town hall tries to balance the books. Measures likely to be imposed to save pennies are fortnightly bin collections, dimmed streetlights and spending slashed on road maintenance. Birmingham went bust in part following a £760 million equal pay claim, equivalent to its entire annual spending on services, along with funding squandered on a faulty new IT system. But they aren't alone. 6 local authorities have effectively declared bankruptcy since 2021, with many more warning they're also on the precipice of financial disaster. Labour leader John Cotton has blamed the city's spiralling finances on austerity and underfunding, claiming Birmingham has lost over £1 billion since 2011. However, speaking to TalkTV earlier, local residents were less than impressed with the situation.
People are affected on a really basic level. I know the bins weren't collected recently, and that was a big problem.
The crisis at the moment is just taking all the money out of our accounts, and increasing council tax is just going to tip us over the edge.
There's a lot of anger, especially with the city going into bankruptcy, the council. Like, where's all the money gone? How was it spent?
There's clearly not been the best management of services for quite a while. So actually, if anything, hopefully it'll bring some innovation, some change, opportunity to actually sort some stuff out.
So there has been some mismanagement, absolutely, but underfunding from the government is a massive part of this. This ridiculous £760 million that they lost, that's pay for losing the gender equality court case, is another issue. But I'm speaking to my fellow Brummies.
Other than that, though.
Other than that, speaking to my fellow Brummies, a lot of people in town are now saying basically, but we're still sending how many billions to Ukraine? And now you're going to cut vulnerable adult services, vulnerable children's services, kids who literally are being saved from bad parents, and adults who need extra help, and now going to be told, no, so
is that government or is that Birmingham Council?
Well, I'm saying it's a mixture of both.
It's not really.
Well,
Birmingham Council. It's Birmingham Council.
I
cannot blame the government for Birmingham Council's absolute ineptitude.
£1 billion less since 2011.
I'll tell you about this place. When it deconstructed, when we first found out that Birmingham City Council was imploding and the poor people were going to have to suffer all of this, we were all broadcasting that day. We were all looking for the council leader. Where is he? We need a statement from him. Maybe he'll come on camera. Oh, guess where he was?
New York.
In New York, celebrating his birthday. That pretty much sums it up. And what I'd like to find out, I mean, I know it might be relatively minor on the scale of local spending, but with these councils that are all going bankrupt, there's quite a few, as we've just referenced. What is the expenditure on the salaries of the chief executives and all his acolytes on the top floor of the town hall? They're astronomical. They're all earning £600,000, £700,000 a year. So basically, they've got their noses in the trough and they haven't been looking after their city.
I have to agree with you, because the problem is you can talk about government cuts. Everybody went through government cuts, but some councils have actually managed really effectively despite that. And it's not the only way that you can raise funding. In fact, when I was in government, we introduced a levy, a social care levy for councils, so they had extra funding through that period. So you can't just say, oh, it's government cuts. There has to be some responsibility for the management of those services. There's nobody in Whitehall that was managing Birmingham City Council. So whose head's going to roll about this? Because the fact of the matter is, people who do their jobs badly get away with it so frequently, especially at this level, that accountability is just totally shot. So you can just throw it to, oh, the Prime Minister or the Chancellor, and nobody ever takes responsibility.
But I literally said it's a mixture of both those things.
But it's not a mixture.
But it is a mixture.
Not a mixture.
Council,
so the £760 million that we had to pay out for the equal pay claim, whose fault is that?
Birmingham Council.
That was Birmingham's.
No.
That was because they chose.
That's factual.
I'm not saying that that's government's fault. What I'm saying is that took out a huge amount of the budget because
they're useless.
Because of some people having to say, well, the men are being paid more money, but the men were doing a different job to the women who were sitting on the tills.
Yeah, but the council dug their heels in It was obviously a lost cause from day one. They let the bills go up and up and up, and in the end, they owed virtually £1 billion.
Sam, I think
hence they're broke.
One of the issues,
Useless.
though, with different councils that have different income levels, different wealth and demographics, is that when they're getting most of their money in from council tax, in Birmingham, about 25% of council tax payers get a rebate on their council tax. You know, they're on such low incomes, so the council doesn't get as much tax as you would in a really rich, Surrey, Heath, or somewhere like that.
But they get a redistribution. So there's lots of different ways that you can fund councils. Council tax is one of them, and what you can levy. That's what councils control directly. Business rates come into central government and then are redistributed in a much more equal way, and that is the large sort of proportion of what councils get. So actually you get a very wealthy borough like Westminster that has loads and loads of business rates that it collects, and it actually gets redistributed around the country. Westminster doesn't necessarily keep all of it. So I think people really need to understand where those
And it's important to point out, by the way, this isn't party political. Labour and Tories are just as inept, and all over the country, whether or not your council happens to be going bankrupt, we, the people of Britain, are being taken to the cleaners by these town hall tyrants who are just divvying up all the money between themselves and letting our boroughs go to rack and ruin. It's a damn disgrace.
Kevin, I think it's time you stood. Your country needs you. You need to stand and be a local councillor, and then you can lead your council.
Who votes for
I just said the councils are in big trouble. They're not in that much trouble.